Well, welcome everyone to Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. I am your host and your resource for self-care and mindfulness. And today we have with us Dr. Sajad Vahedi, a breakup expert with a powerful personal journey from self-suppression to self-discovery. Sajad, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Laura, for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Can you share with us some of that personal journey of that self-suppression to self-discovery, kind of how that went and how you got to where you are now?
I was as a child, since childhood, I'm sure like many of your audience and you yourself are like, I was someone who was curious and I wanted to always to understand myself, to become better version of myself in my own way as a child. And later on, and I always had this idea of that who I want to become, my ideal self. And I determined that I was, of course, like kind of looking at other people by finding my own ideal person, personalities, and the life that I wanted to have. So that I decided first, and then I wanted to become that person. I was striving to become that person. And that was very ego driven. There's nothing wrong with it, but it was something ego driven. I decided who I want to become and then tried to go in that direction. And that took me far enough. And I was, until I graduated from school, I got my PhD and I was working. And I was then in a relationship that I knew deep down that it is not the relationship that I want to stay in. And that wasn't fair to myself and to my partner. So I decided to end the relationship. But I was emotionally involved in that relationship. And before that, I would always think about like logically any problem, any trouble that I would have, and I would analyze it. I have a very analytical mind. I would analyze it and then find the solution and then implement it and move on from it. But this time it looked like it's not working. It is, I could tell like analytically, again, I made the right decision. We made the right decision, but emotionally I couldn't come to term with it. And then I was talking to families and friends and everyone like they could talk to. And anything that they would tell me, any reasoning that they would tell me, I have already thought like tenfold different ways of that. And none of them really helping. And then it's okay, apparently I need to talk to someone expert. And I got this like a therapist number from my friend, and I called her, and she said that, why do you want to talk to me? And I said, apparently I don't know myself enough, because so far I would have solved my own problem because I knew who I am. But this time I'm not able to do it. And I feel like I don't know myself enough and I want to know myself. And that was just the starting of the journey. And then I went there to understand. And then after that, I didn't have much control where the journey took me. And through that process, I started learning about my emotions. I connected deeply for the first time in my life, I would say, that to my emotions. And then through that journey, I realized that maybe it's not that I want to become the person I decide firsthand. Rather, I need to discover myself, who I am. And discovery is basically reconnecting to your emotion, connecting to your gut feelings, and discovering who you are. Like, what do you want? Because the ego-driven part is usually, of course, it can come from within as well, but mostly are imposed by the way that we are raised, by our parents, who we are, with the environment that we are in, the culture that we have lived in. It is imposed on us because we have decided those whenever we were little. We didn't have much like choice to make a decision. But when you try to discover yourself, it's very genuine, it's very authentic. You have to go deeper inside, like within yourself, to understand who you are. And that became changed from trying to build myself for the ideal person that I wanted to become, to discovering myself through connecting to my emotions and my gut feeling.
So your self-suppression was really suppressing all of your emotions. Mm-hmm. How did you suppressing your emotions limit your personal growth, do you think?
So again, like when you think about it, like if you divide it to conscious mind and unconscious mind, or analytical mind, logical mind, and heart and emotions, whatever the way that you do. Like, I'm using these terms like in a loose way, but for the sake of discussion, let's assume that they're the same, right? Our unconscious mind or our emotions is much deeper, much bigger than our conscious mind, analytical mind, logical mind. And we had for millions and thousands of years, our emotions, that emotional part, amygdala part of our brain. Then when we started like our human brain to develop, right? It is, in a biological sense, our human brain is very new. And before that, we had that unconscious mind that it helped us to survive. It helped us to thrive even in the nature, in the evolutionary perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And when we only rely on our mind, conscious mind, we get this illusion that, oh, we will figure it out, everything with our mind, with our logic. And I had the same illusion in a sense. And there are different reasons why we do that, right? Why we only focus on our logic mind. One of the reasons is that our defense mechanisms, right? Because if you feel as a child your emotion, it can be painful. Every little painful thing that you experience, that you go through, if you want to fully experience it, it's going to be unbearable for a little child. One way that the little child finds to survive is to become analytical, become logical person. So not to feel those emotions, not to feel those pains. And through that, I was basically suppressing my emotions, not to listening to them. And it's ironic because now in the hindsight, when I look back, I'm very emotionally sensitive person. But for a long period of time, I was a very analytical person. Mm-hmm. I know, because I was focused on that. And when you cut down your unconscious, when you disconnect from your emotions and your gut feeling, you're basically ignoring vast majority of your being, your psyche, your being, basically, right? Your unconscious side. And of course, you're gonna miss out a lot about yourself, who you are, what you want to become. And if I want to use an analogy, is that our emotions is our compass, right? It is your compass to guide you through life, through the universe. And of course, your mind is the technology or the machine that enables you to read that compass. You need both of them. But without compass, you're lost, right? Without the logic, right, you don't know how to use your compass. And in a sense, if you don't have your emotion, if not having your emotion, if you're disconnected with your emotion, you've lost the compass. You don't know where to go, and you're gonna be pulled this way or that way based on what you hear, what other people pulls you away or pushes you, instead of what comes from within, which is authentic, which is genuine, and which is true to yourself.
So really, you kind of found a balance between the two.
Yeah, for so long, I was basically, my analytical mind was developed, but my emotional side wasn't developed that much. Now in this part of my journey, I'm working on that. It's been started years ago, but it's still something that I know that I need to develop more. I need to connect more to my body, to my emotions.
Yeah. So, and I know we have a lot of men that watch too, and emotions is not something that a lot of men talk to or connect with. They seem to be kind of cut off.
Yeah, because it is considered not manly, not masculine. That it was in my culture too. Like, I'm originally from Iran. Like, and if you're a man, you don't cry much. You don't feel your emotion. You shouldn't be too sensitive, right? And that is basically, it's a burden on men, and that not to feel their emotions, not to be connected to their gut feelings. And because they feel or they believe that feeling your emotion is being weak, it's being vulnerable, it's being not masculine enough. And which is actually, like, if you think about it, having the courage to feel and you experience your emotion, it requires courage. It requires, like, you have to be brave enough to let yourself, to open up yourself, to feel the painful emotions. That's masculine. That's manly. That is tough. Not suppressing them because you're afraid to feel them, if you think about that way, right? And many men, including myself that I was before, it is like emotions is the way to connect to yourself, to connect to your wife, to your family, to your loved ones. That's the way that you truly can connect to other people. And you want to miss out on all of those because you want to be man. And again, it is a wrong definition of, it is a wrong definition of masculinity and manhood, that you shouldn't feel your emotions.
Yeah, but somehow we have had that passed down, and I know it's always tough, to see a guy cry. But then on the other hand, at least they're feeling something, because otherwise sometimes they have that whole cold, and you feel like they don't care. And there's kind of a fine line between that.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Whenever also like, and from the some also this from men feel this way, and also from some women, their partner, there's a pressure, or from their families not to feel their emotion, because we believe that either you're too like man and logical person and you don't, it's hard to break you, or you're a mess, you're always crying, you're like in a weak, you're needy person. It doesn't have to be either one. You are in control. You can let yourself, and you have the courage, you have the ability to experience your emotion. At the same time, you are still someone, can be reliable, you're dependable. Also, you can also be protected. But at the same time, it means that you have to be sometimes vulnerable. You have to let other people to take care of you. You have to let other people to care for you. And that's not weak. That's being human. That's being real human, instead of acting like a robot.
Right. Now, when you went through this breakup that you were talking about, no one pushed you towards a psychologist. You just decided you needed to do that for yourself, correct?
Yeah, like no, but no, the reason that I was struggling with this for months, and I was overthinking about it. I was, one minute I knew that I made the right decision, the next I was doubting everything, and talking to everyone, like my friends and family, didn't solve it. And because the reason that it didn't solve it is that, one, I've already thought of whatever they like, kind of they had the objection or like the guidance that they had. Two, when people are not experts in what their advice that they're giving, they can be very like it comes from love, right? My mom, my friends, my sisters, but the way that the advice that they would give, it's only because coming from their own personal experience. They don't have the vast information about it, expertise. They haven't seen different type of life and different type of breakups, relationships. So it only comes from their own personal experiences, and none of them help. And at the end, it's okay, like when your car breaks, you have to go to mechanics. Like you cannot like sit there and then hope that it's gonna be fix your car, right? And that was the reason that I wanted to say, okay, let me try therapist and see if it's gonna work. And that was, if I don't want to say the best, one of the best decision that I made in my life, because the journey, the transformation that I went through after that, it was it's the most valuable thing that I've like experienced in my life.
So that really that kind of helped spark your passion then for psychology. I mean, how did managing your internal conflict aid in realizing that your passion for that? Because that's what you went into, right? Is psychology.
Yeah. So like whenever I try to learn something, I also try to understand the theory behind it. Even if I start like in a fishing, like I know that you like fishing, I do fishing too. I go study it. I just like go try to learn it. I wouldn't just go like jump into like and start like fishing. And the same here. This was the starting of it. I would ask my therapist that, where can I find these things like that we were discussing now, like about emotions or like about the problem that you're coming up in our sessions. And she started like kind of giving me the books that I can read. And I started reading just to facilitate our sessions. I wanted to learn more about myself. And that was the like reason that I started the whole thing. And then after that, through that process, not only it helped our sessions and like it became even like more fruitful, our sessions, but also through that process, I realized that, oh, I also love to do this. I want to, because after that, whenever I was talking to my friends and family, like my sisters, I
Mhm.
was uh, becoming a therapist and they were becoming my clients. And like everyone out there, you shouldn't do it. And I didn't know it because you cannot be therapist, you cannot be coach to your friends and families. But I didn't know it like at the time. But through that process, I realized that this is what I love to do. That was partly about my skills. Like I'm in a way I find out that, oh, I'm good at it, I can do it really good job, and I love doing it. Just the in a way the that is skill, like sitting with people, listening to them and trying to help with them to understand their problem, how to go like kind of solve it, right? But at the
Right.
same time, that's part of it. Another part is that through the transformation that I experienced personally, I wanted to just go out there and then help other people to see the same experience. Whenever I would ask like kind of someone the question, and then I see it like kind of their eyes light up, or like they start crying, something touched in there like kind of like deeply. It just uh, it fills me with like gratitude and joy that, oh, I was part of their journey in that moment, in that like kind of thing, that insight that they got at the moment. So those were the reasons that I started like reading books, and then I went to get certificates in like two different type of like schema therapy and a CBT, and but I work as a coach now. I work as a coach with my clients, but
And
use
you work
those
and you work
frameworks.
a lot with people that have gone from heartache, like we titled it, from heartache to healing, because and overcoming breakups, because that is something that you experienced and familiar with. So that's kind of, I would say, what put you on this journey then.
Yeah, it's basically like my starting point was from breakup, and the frustration or the difficulty that I experienced with that breakup, and that started my whole journey. And now I'm helping people that when they go through this breakup, and sometimes that people when they go through breakup, women usually handle it better than men, because again, the same way that women start experiencing their emotions, because they start grieving, they start crying to some extent much more than men. Men at the like in the early days, they don't know that what even happened, and then after that, even women that they experience those grief and sadness of loss, not everyone does go through that process in a proper way, in a healthy way. And people usually are stuck in their breakup or their like loss of their relationship. And the reason for that is that you have to go through certain steps. And if you don't, what will happen is that even if you ask people, yeah, I don't care, I don't think about him, or I don't think about her, or whatever, right? They is still deeply emotional. Logically, they think that they've moved on. And I did the same. I thought that I've moved on. Like, what's going on? Like, I don't need any help. And but when you're not moved on from your relationship that is gone, that you have lost, you will carry that with you throughout the rest of your life and through your next relationships. It will show up. It will show up in your relationship, the way that the person that you pick, or the way that you show up in those relationships. And that is necessary, that once you go through breakup, and especially if that relationship was very emotionally involved, or a breakup or ending that relationship was so painful, or you have repeated similar breakups in your life. If any of those applies to you, it's a sign that you need to work on it. You need to heal through it. You need to understand what happened, what was painful about that relationship, what was painful about that person. Even if it was sometimes it can be very loving relationship, that you're still having hard time to move on. It can be very abusive and toxic relationship that you're still having trouble. And for even toxic ones, sometimes because we feel hate and anger toward our ex, we feel that, okay, because I don't like that person anymore, it means that I've moved on. That's not true. And you can do it on your own to move on in a healthy way, but it may take years and decades to move on. But if you find someone expert who knows what they're doing, either they have gone through that experience themselves and they have the expertise, they have the knowledge, they have seen other people in different situations, different circumstances, different way of moving on from the relationship, that can, like, decades of work can be shortened to like a couple of months instead of like working you through that like breakups over the years.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know there's a lot of issues that I've known people like that where they have a tendency to, keep wondering why they keep attracting the same person, or they find themselves constantly in the same kind. They keep attracting the same type of people and wind up in the same type of relationships. So, and I know we have more to share with everybody, and we're going to get into about how to help people move on from breakups, but we do need to pause from an ad, the sponsors ads. And so we will be right back.
Hello, my name is Peter. I'm a Dharma Master. I teach Qigong at the Bright Beings Academy. What kind of Qigong do we teach? Well, it helps you to get your mind into your body and your breath very quickly. We really start off with quite quick movements to help cater for the busy Western mind, coming into stretching out the meridians, waking up the chakra system and the danjons, coming into Jigan meditation, which helps you to really focus on the energy in and around your body, bringing you into that beautiful calm state where you can sit and meditate really easily, whereas maybe before you found it really difficult. So Qigong at the Bright Beings Academy will help you get more in touch with yourself.
Hi, Sajad Vahedi here. If you're someone over 30 and you want to get over your ex so it doesn't ruin other aspects of your life, like your career, I can help you do that in 10 sessions or less. Even if you have tried traditional therapy, online resources, self-help books with no results, you may still be overwhelmed, confused, and you've lost your good night's sleep in a long time. You can't start a new relationship because you're still stuck in the last one. I will show you exactly what to do instead so you get over your ex in a healthy way.
And we're back. So we were talking about, having that proper mentor and coach and stuff. And we've talked a little bit about it, but and it mentioned some of the advantages, but what are the advantages does someone have of having a mentor and a coach to a person's self-improvement journey?
Yeah, so just like I want to also touch on what you just mentioned like a few minutes ago about the people repeating, keep attracting the same person, is that when you are in that journey, I mean, yeah, you were asking that, like, why people are stuck in their relationship. And it is, I also always tell people that don't waste pain, meaning that whenever you go through the pain and whenever you are in the most pain, just lean into that. Don't try to distract yourself. Don't try to suppress it. Don't try to distract yourself with working, gym, alcohol, drugs, or whatever it is, right? Just lean into it, because the lesson that you're going to learn from that pain will be the most valuable lesson that you can learn in your life. So if you're going through the breakup and it's very tough and it's painful, you're grieving and you feel like you're just like, it's the end of the world, that's the good time. That's the best time to lean into it, understand it. And as Laura, you said that people usually repeat attracting the same people, attracting the same partner. And the reason for that is that if someone is repeating that, one, you're going to have the most painful breakup if that relationship ends, even if it's the abusive relationship. And that's the one thing that I want you to keep in mind, like for the audience, is that if there's a pattern that you repeat in your relationships, let's say you keep attracting cold partners. They're not emotionally available. They're not nurturing. They're not caring. When you break up, you will feel most devastated in that relationship than if you were with someone loving, with someone who was caring. And that's I want you to keep in mind. And the reason for that you're repeating is that you're repeating an old pattern. It has nothing to do with your partner. It has nothing to do with your ex. It has something to do with your childhood. If you had a cold parents, if you had a cold when you were growing up, they were not emotionally available consistently. They were not nurturing. They were not caring. So you're familiar with that environment. You're familiar with the environment of not being caring, not being nurturing. So when you grow up, you're going to be attracted to the partner who is cold, who is not emotionally available. And the reason for that we do it in our life is that we try to get from our partners what we didn't get from our parents. And if I didn't get the love and attention and care that I needed, that I had to get as a child, I'm going to look for in my partner. But I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to find that partner because I don't know what it looks like. I only know the partners. I only am attracted to partners who are similar to my parents, who were cold, who were not emotionally available. And every time that I'm going to attract the same partner, when I break up with that partner, I'm basically losing the hope that I had that, oh, this time it's going to work out. This time I found a partner who is going to nurture, who is going to be caring, who is going to be loving. But the way that you picked your partner from the get-go, that partner wasn't going to give you what you needed. So for that reason, it's so important when that you go through that devastating breakups, your relationship ends, you need to lean into it. Because if you don't, you're going to repeat the same pattern. You're going to attract the same partner, similar partner, and then you're going to still be heartbroken. And you need to understand it. You need to understand where it's coming from, not logically, emotionally, which is the important part. Because understanding emotionally means healing, means letting go of the past, means understanding that whenever you're attracted to a similar partner, to stop yourself, to pause. And whenever you see partner who is loving, who is caring, you may not feel that high chemistry at first, but you will you will open up, you will give yourself a chance to try relationship with that healthy partner who is caring, who is loving. And you will give yourself a chance to feel the true love, true caring that you crave for your whole life.
Wow. And so when people are leaning in, then they may find it very difficult, because I think a lot of people do, to tap into those emotions. So that's when you would suggest them to get some kind of a coach or a mentor, which you do, and you work with people.
Beautiful. Exactly. Because when the reason that it's in our unconscious, the way that it's controlled us. If I had a cold mom and she wasn't emotionally available, and I'm attracted to women who are cold, who are not emotionally available, the reason that remains and stays in our unconscious, because bringing to our conscious, it's painful. We have to accept, we have to understand, we have to embrace the fact that, oh, I had that childhood, that I didn't receive the love that I needed, right? And I will prevent myself. I will do everything in the world to stop myself from feeling those emotions, experiencing and going through the painful journey of understanding. And that's when you need someone else outside of you someone who can look at you, can listen to you, can watch you, who can understand you objectively, because you are yourself emotionally involved in that. You cannot go outside of your mind and then look at yourself. You need someone who doesn't have the skin in the game, who's not suffering the way that you are doing because it's your experience, and who has the knowledge and expertise and understand how to help you, who will show you what are the patterns that you're repeating, where it's coming from. You're going to understand it emotionally, deeply. It's not some like article or like thing that you listen or hear or books. Rather, you're going to personally experience all of that in the sessions, working with coach, working with therapist. And everyone who's listening to the session is that I want to give back value. And I know that you're going to get a lot of insight, get a lot of the value from just by watching and listening to this. But I know that at the end of the day, everybody's circumstances, life situations is different. It's very unique, right? You cannot get one generic advice and like tricks and tips and apply it, and you're going to solve all your problem. Otherwise, like, we didn't need all these therapists or coaches, right? Everybody just read the book and solve their problems. And
Right.
because you cannot go outside and look at yourself as objectively, right? And you don't have the expertise. You don't have everybody's expertise is different, right? So I want to give the chance to your listeners that if I want to give 3 free coaching sessions, whoever, and it goes like first come, first serve. And go to my Instagram, then you will find that like Laura is sharing the screen somewhere. I don't know, it's in the alpha this way. And
QR code is in the upper corner and your promo code's on the bottom.
yeah, you can go to my page, Instagram page, and there is a link there to book a call with me. And again, first come, first serve for 3 people who sign up first. And in that session, that we will go deeply exactly what is your situation, what is your circumstances, and we will understand your exact situation, what happened in your relationship, what you went through, and how was it, how was the nature of your relationship. And after that, even like after that, if you decide and I feel that I can help you, then we can decide on working together later on. If not, you can just get that session. And I'm sure that you're going to get a lot of values and you're going to get a lot of insight about your relationship and how to move on from there.
Yeah. And I would think it's kind of like to me, I would think the reason for having a coach and mentor too is you're an outside person. You don't know these people, because we need the family, we need support, we need our friends from support. But when I think you were talking about a little bit before, when they think they know you and they know how to help fix you or stuff, and it doesn't always necessarily help. But to be able to talk to someone that doesn't know you and get an outside perspective, I think could be very helpful for people.
Exactly. And not only, one is that outside perspective, someone who looks from outside and see it like exactly what it is, right? And who is not emotionally involved in that situation, right? That's one thing. Another thing, that the person has expertise. I was watching the other day that a video from Alex Hormozy. I'm not sure that you know it or not. He's a big guy and like a young person in the business, and he's very successful. He's a millionaire. And he was just given this, he is a businessman, and he was given this relationship advice that if you break up and if your relationship ends, don't dwell on it, just go right back on the horse and then start dating. And it was sad in a sense that he has lots of millions of followers in all social media, and people listen to him and see that, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. Yes, he does in business, but not in relationship. That is toxic advice. That is something that is damaging advice, right? And I'm sure that he gives that advice in a very caring and loving way, but he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? And he doesn't have that expertise. It goes the same way that to friends and families. They only talk about from their own perspective, and they don't have the knowledge of what are the different ways. What is the advice that I'm giving? Will that work for this person or not? Even though he's my son, I love him so much, but will this advice that I'm giving it to him, will that work? Usually, most of the time, it doesn't, because your mom, your sister, your brother, your dad doesn't have all the knowledge, all the expertise in that field. He might be the best businessman, he might be the best mechanic in the world, but he doesn't have the expertise in relationship and breakups.
Right. So what do you think it makes it difficult for people to move on from a breakup?
One is that many people, they don't want to feel it. They don't want to experience what is it that is painful. They don't want to understand, articulate it. Like, just forget about the relationship, like painful, like breakup. Anything that you go through painful experience, your mind is trying to understand it, articulate it, and integrate it within your psyche, within your mind, because it sees, your mind, your survival mind sees that event as a threat. So it's trying to figure out what it is that I should take away from this experience, so the next time it doesn't happen again. Okay? So this is our mind is trying to do. And then if you don't allow yourself to feel that, if you don't allow yourself to emotionally understand it, that's one reason that why people stay and stuck in those breakups. Even if it's not in their conscious mind, it is in their unconscious mind. It affects and it imposes certain actions on them, right? Another one is that we don't understand it. Again, like, even if we try, we don't know how to understand. We don't know how to articulate it. And if it's something, it's much deeper in our life. Again, as I said, if it's something that I'm repeating all the time, that I always pick a partner who is abusive, emotionally, physically, if he's like, I'm repeating the same pattern, it means that I need to look deeper. It's something that goes back to my childhood, the pattern that I created in childhood. And when you go through this, like through coaching or therapy sessions through your childhood, it's not just for the sake of looking like, oh, everything goes back to your childhood. No, the reason that you're going back to that is that you are repeating something. And even if you're trying to solve it, it looks like it's not working. So the reason for that is that you form this pattern when you were so little. You didn't have an analytical mind to understand it, but you did it as a survival defense mechanism, right?
Okay.
If I, for example, clinging to my mom, my dad, helped me to get the attention, to get the love from them, I will repeat it the same with my partner. I will cling to my partner to get the attention. I will suffocate them by doing this. I will push them away by doing this. And at the end of the day, I will be heartbroken again because the person will leave me, because it will they will be tired of me clinging onto them, controlling them, suffocating them emotionally, right? And unless I don't understand where it's coming from, the root cause of it, and heal from it. Once you heal from it, you don't need to go back and look at your childhood again, your past experience. That will become a wisdom that you learned the lesson. Your mind now will rest in peace. That, okay, I learned whatever happened. I know what the threat was. I know how to prevent it now. I don't have to ruminate about it. I don't have to go pick the same people that causes me the same pain. So if I don't do it, then moving on the breakup will be much difficult, will be much more, in a way, impossible to move on, because I haven't learned the lesson that this breakup is trying to teach me.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And like you said, I was always a proponent of one size does not fit all. We're all different. We all have those different experiences. So when people go through these breakups, a lot of times they grieve. Not necessarily, we always relate grief to, death, or at least some of us do, but there's actually a grief in losing a relationship that you had. So how can one recognize if they haven't properly grieved for a loss?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Grief is for loss, any type of loss. It can be that you lost your iPhone. Okay, you grieve about, you will be sad for 5 seconds, for 10 minutes, and you will be move on from it, right? But if you if the loss is your relationship or the loved one, that's a big deal, right? And one rule of thumb is that if something happened, it's a rule of thumb, if something happened 6 months ago, and when you think about it, when you something that kind of comes up about that event, your relationship, the partner that you had, or your ex, it still brings up a lot of intense emotions in you. That means that you haven't moved on from it. Okay, this is a rule of thumb that everyone can watch themselves, see themselves, how they behave, how they feel when they try to avoid so much discussing their ex. Okay, those are the sign and rule of thumb that you haven't moved on from it. But there are other signs that these needs more in detail looking at it, right? Whenever you want to, whenever these are the things that you may not yourself be able to catch yourself understanding them, that you haven't moved on. But it's something that when you in the coaching sessions or with your therapist and they watch you and they listen to you, right?
Right.
When you talk about your relationship, when you talk about your ex, and you become, for example, you become very defensive. You talk with anger that is not very visible to you, or hatred or resentment that's not visible to you, but the other person, your therapist, your coach, can see it. Those are the other signs. Or when you want to talk about, you change the subject, right? Those are the subtle things that your coach, your therapist would understand it. It may be difficult for someone who doesn't have the expertise, who haven't gone through this personal journey of emotional healing. That can be hidden for yourself. And both those are the other signs that you would know the person hasn't moved on. Another thing is that you can say that if you had a relationship and you had a very painful breakup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to know that you have moved on or not, you should ask yourself, are you picking similar partners? Are you acting similar way in your current relationship as you did in your last relationship that you ended, right? If the answer to any of these is yes, means that there are things in that relationship that caused trouble, made you end the relationship, you broke up, and you're still repeating it, the way that you show up in the relationship and the partner that you picked, means that you haven't learned the lesson that you had to, means that you haven't moved on. Whenever we say that we move on, it's not just, I don't think about John anymore. I don't care about John anymore. When we say moving on, one is that you are emotionally not involved. Whenever we talk about John, your ex-husband, or your boyfriend, that when you talk about them, intense emotion doesn't come up. Another thing is that you're not repeating the behavioral, toxic behaviors or dysfunctional or self-defeating behaviors that you had in a relationship with John. You're not repeating with David, right? So
Right.
Those are the things that mean that if you repeat, it means that you haven't moved on. It doesn't matter that you don't think about John anymore. You're the same person. In that sense, you haven't moved on. And then that because of that moving on from relationship it is more than deleting their phone number from your phone, unfollowing them on Instagram.
I think it also says that you also have to acknowledge your part in the role and not just be so angry that everything was their fault.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you keep winding up in the same relationships and keep breaking up, there's a common denominator there. Mm-hmm. You just have to be willing to take a look at it.
Exactly. Actually, what you said, it's one of the signs that means that you haven't moved on. If you keep blaming, okay, even if you were in the most abusive relationship, it's not about when you try to understand the breakup, when you try to understand your relationship and move on from it, it's not about blaming one person or the other. It is trying to understand, articulate exactly what happened, okay? What could have I done? Maybe did I ignore some red flags that I saw in that abusive partner that I shouldn't ignore in the next partner that I'm going to pick, right? This is not about blaming yourself, rather understanding what happened. Okay. If you're still blaming anyone, either yourself, some people are self-blaming because anything that happens in the world is their fault. Some people are external, like is gonna blame external reasons and factors. If you're still blaming your partner all the time with anger, with resentment, means that you haven't moved on.
Yep, that's a good point. Definitely a good point to make. Now, you've done schema therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. How has those studies and your practical training influenced your approach to helping clients?
So, as I mentioned, like first, it was my own personal journey. And if I wanted to, and there are many coaches out there that you can find, is that, and it is valuable. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, they have the passion to help other people. Is that they have gone through personal journey and they go out there to help others. Okay. The problem with that is that your personal journey and personal experience, as valuable as it is, it may not apply to other people that you're trying to help. Okay. Because from only looking from the lens of my own experience, it's very limited viewpoint. Something that happened to me, the pain that I went through, it may not apply to Laura, right? You may have completely different experience. And to be able to understand Laura's specific circumstances, I need to be able to have more knowledge, more understanding. The science behind it is that what is it? What is grief? What is that? How you move on from breakup? The tips or a practice that helped me may not be useful or maybe even damaging to Laura if she used that, right?
Right.
So because of that, I wanted to get deeper understanding, get the science, learn the science behind it. And I went in and I worked with psychologists to get those certificates of schema therapy to look from a broader perspective. It's not just Sajad's problem. It is everyone's have, of course, similar similarities that, for example, that when you think about schema therapy, there are identified 18 different schemas, 18 different patterns. For example, like an abuse and mistrust schema or abandonment schema, right? So these are the things that is kind of similar across like everyone, like all the people, like the population. But how this abandonment issue shows up in my life can be completely different than how it shows up in someone else's life. So to understand it, to make the distinctions, you need to have the knowledge behind it. And that's why I went to get those 2 certificates and to work as a coach.
Yeah, and gives you better understanding too as well. Mm-hmm. We have a few minutes left. We're in our last few minutes. So what is some of the best advice or tips that you can give for people as far as how to go from heartache to healing?
So one thing that I would say is that if you pay attention to yourself and become aware of what's happening psychologically, mentally, in your thoughts and your emotions, and you tell the truth, okay, just apply these 2 tips. Become aware of yourself and tell the truth. Whatever you see, whatever you observe, without censoring, without suppressing, without rejecting, you will step into healing journey and growth journey if you do these 2, okay? And through that journey, be compassionate, be caring toward yourself, as if you would be to a little child, that if they want to learn something, you wouldn't like lash out them or you wouldn't punish them if they make mistakes, okay? You would be caring toward them, you would be compassionate, you would be understanding, you would hold their hands and help them and walk them through the journey, right? Do the same, because like sometimes when we say double standard, we think that like, okay, something that is good for me, like, and I care more about myself and not others. But most often, actually, we do the opposite, meaning that we are compassionate, we are caring toward others when they go through pain, when they make mistakes, but we are not caring toward ourselves. We are not forgiving toward ourselves. So through that journey, it becomes very important to be loving, to be accepting toward yourself and your past. Whatever you are now, just be grateful to your past. every mistakes that you made, or every difficult situation that you were in, right? When you look back, just look at them compassionately, in a way to understand what your past version was trying to tell you, or how that helped you to become the person that you are now, right? And if you do those things, you will be in the healing journey. You can do this, you can do it alone, and you can go through this journey alone, but it can take one lesson that you want to learn. It may take decades or years of maybe also it will affect negatively your relationship, your mental health, your career, and all of that. But if you get someone who is expert on your side, who understands you, who has the expertise and the skills to help you, to guide you through it, something that you will do in decades can be done in months or weeks. Okay, and you don't want to, in a way, waste your life and energy and relationship that you can save, the relationship that you can build. And instead of wasting those, sacrificing those, you can have someone expert on your side to help you, to guide you through this journey, to make it much more quicker and faster and safer. In the same way that if you go into, like, I don't know, if your car breaks, you take it to mechanics. If you want to build your cabin, you find someone who knows what they do. Why wouldn't you have someone expert on your side for your mental health, for your relationship? It's way much more valuable than your cars and your belonging.
Yeah, and there is no quick fix. Like you said, it takes time, but having someone that's experienced with it will help. So, so just to reiterate before we go, we do have the promo code or the QR code up in the corner, and you said it was 3, right? Three free coaching sessions for anyone that contacts you.
First come first, yes.
First come, first serve on your Instagram. And if you do choose to move on and continue to work with Sajad, he does offer you a 10% off promo code. You just have to use the code Mindful Mondays for watching and seeing him here. And as you can see, he's very knowledgeable. He's been through breakups, and I would say he's a very good resource to help you go from heartache to healing, no matter what that is. So I want to definitely thank you for taking the time and sharing your knowledge. Here goes my voice. Sharing your knowledge with all of us. It's one of those things. It's just that time of year. But definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing that with everyone. So thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you for having me and providing this platform and opportunity. And I hope that your audience gets a lot of value from the session.
I believe they will. Thank you. And everyone, make sure, like I said, go to youtube.com at Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. You can click the like and subscribe. That way you can not only catch up on this interview if you missed it live, but you can catch up on a lot of our other fantastic guests that we have. So with that, I want to wish everyone a wonderful week, and we will see you next Monday.